Hey, good afternoon, Harrison. George Radney, Rochester, New York, Challenger Community News. And congratulations on the endorsement. I'm right here by the airport here in Rochester. I pass your billboard every day from Rachel's. Is that the
Yes,
secret
sir.
to your success here in Western New York?
I think it's got to be the fuel of such great food, not only from Rachel's, from all the places out here in Western New York. That is one of the best benefits of being in Buffalo is all the great food spots for sure. That's funny. Do I look good?
Yeah, you look great, man.
Oh.
Last year they didn't have your name on it. I knew who you were, but everyday people didn't know. But this year they corrected it and put your name underneath the photo. So yeah, you look real good this year.
Oh, well, thank you very much.
Yes, it did. And my question for you, how's the knee? Is it back to 80-90% right now? And what type of rehab, what did you have to go through to get yourself back to this point?
Yeah, so I feel great. We just kind of finished training camp, and it's such a blessing to say that I'm healthy and was able to put in, the last 35 days or whatever we had of training camp. So obviously my rehab team did a fantastic job getting me here because I was able to push through all those practices and be able to be available for every practice that I needed to be. The rehab specifically was excruciating, long, and a crazy process. A lot of guys have to go through it. My situation was just a little more unique because I had to have surgery on both of my knees. So I was, for however many sets and reps you have to do for a normal knee, I was having to do double to make sure I did both of the knees. So, that process was long, and I appreciate it so much because when you go through like an exodus like that, it's such a crucial point because you learn so much about yourself. And now when anything that I go through, whether it was training camp, the thick of the thick, or not getting this play, not getting that play, however the production looks, like there's always perspective that I'm still healthy and I can still play. So how bad can it be? I know sometimes, if I had a bad practice or, maybe a coach or a player would be like, hey, how you feeling today? Be like, well, I'm feeling pretty good. I'm not hurt. There's always that perspective. So it was a long rehab, but obviously the team here that the Bills provided with our trainers and Joe and Mackenzie and Will, the guys in the building and the other Joes, they all did a great job to get me healthy.
Excellent. And what is it about you guys coming out of Stanford? What is it about the university playing there that prepares you guys for the NFL? Because it seems like you guys seem to do quite well.
Coach Shaw obviously has experience with the NFL, but they bring in, with we all have to get into Stanford. So you got a lot of guys who are extremely intelligent, and they expose us to NFL style playbooks and NFL style coaching, and give us a little bit more, food on our plate in terms of how you break down film, how you watch offenses for me specifically, what plays I can anticipate, where I know, some other guys didn't get that much experience to it because it's harder to take in all that stuff as an 18-year-old kid. But because some of that book work or film study came easier to us, we were able to get exposed to NFL offenses and defenses, younger. So my rookie year, I didn't feel like that was the first time I was hearing some of the language and understanding some of these tendencies. Oftentimes you'll get a rookie that comes in and doesn't know the difference between a pro formation or 2x2 or what those offensive structure terms mean. And I was just fortunate enough that I had a few years of that before I got here.
Great. Thank you very much for your time and good luck this upcoming season.
Thank you.
Hey, Harrison, Heather Prusak here. Good to see you. When we talked to you when you were returning, you were very candid and open with us about the emotional and mental roller coaster you went through during your rehab. How was the mental side of things just being back during training camp and getting back out there?
It was still difficult. I mean, it wasn't just sunshine and rainbows. There's because I feel healthy, and obviously I am. I came through training camp and put some great things on film, but there's still some times where I don't know if you're thinking about my knee instead of the play. And so some of that's difficult, and you go watch the film and say, I know I could do better. I know I can be better. I know I've been better than this specific situation. And it's easy to play Monday morning quarterback and be like, oh, I'll just plant harder this time or cut off of this. But when you're in that situation, those quick millisecond decisions is difficult. And so there was that whole mental roller coaster, as well as every time you go out there on the field, there's a chance I get hurt. And so having to swallow that pill and, you guys see our injury reports every day. Fortunately, nothing catastrophic, which is awesome, and we're so thankful for the Bills who are monitoring our how we do. But you see a hamstring here, or a foot here, or a shoulder, a finger. You see guys go down, and it just reminds you every time somebody gets hit and stays on the ground. I immediately go back to that place when it was me, and my stomach gets in knots. I always go find that player immediately and put my hand over them and say a prayer for them. Yeah, that was probably the hardest part mentally through this part, through training camp, was just those small little voices that creep in that remind you of what the injury was like.
We appreciate you being so open with us about it. I know it can't be easy. One more question for you. We were just talking to Josh, and he said that he thinks that cut down day is the saddest day in sports. Obviously, you don't have a say in this, but looking at the talent specifically on this defensive line and how deep you guys are, I mean, how tough do you think that's going to be on the front office to make some of those decisions?
Yeah, it's a job that I would never want. I don't know how they do it. It's so difficult, especially I haven't been anywhere else, but here's a true family. And so guys are we know one another, we love one another in this building. And so to be able to put that relationship you have with individual aside and just strictly be able to make a decision based on the player they are, that's got to be extremely difficult. And I agree. My rookie year, it was awful. I had no idea what I was getting into when I walked in the building, and like, oh, what are y'all doing? Do I need to go grab what's going on? It's like, oh no, we're all in line because we just got cut. And your friends are in there. You were just eating with that person, and so it's a cutthroat business, and that's the saddest part, without question. I would second that for Josh, whatever he said. For our defensive line specifically, we rotate so much that every guy has put amazing things on tape against amazing players. What the media or whatever would call our 3s and 4s have gone against our 1s and 2s, and vice versa. And everyone has made plays and shown that they can play in this league. And I think the only caveat that it is a blessing this year is the 17 practice squad spots that we have available. So you hope that, do the math, 53 plus 17, we only got to cut X amount of people who actually won't be here. And so as detrimental that is to someone's career and future of getting cut, you would hope that we're able to retain a lot of those guys, and they'll still be a part of this because they poured so much into this training camp and helped build the identity of this team. We want them around.
Thanks, Harrison.
Okay, Harrison, Mark Gaughan from the Buffalo News. Thanks for doing this. Let's get all these rehab questions out of the way so that in weeks 2, 3, and forever, we can just talk football. So 2 quick questions. One, Starr played 32 snaps a game last year. Can you go 32 snaps against the Jets a week from now?
I can go. I can go 250 snaps against the Jets. Whatever Coach McDermott tells me to do, I'm doing it. And here, let me just say that I don't know for a fact, but if I just had a ballpark, I would say every 2-hour practice we have, or every 2-hour scrimmage, we're getting 35 snaps each practice at a minimum, and that's in the team periods, not including one-on-one pass rush, individual periods. So, I'm definitely the whole defensive line is getting probably closer to 45 snaps, 100% getting off the ball and using your hands a practice. So obviously we'd be capable. More obviously how the flow of the game works and whatever, but whatever fashion they can, I know that my body can definitely handle 35 snaps, no questions.
And then very simply, the one knee was the ACL. What did they do to the other knee?
So I had to have my patella tendon. It was a contralateral patella tendon graft. So they had to go into my right knee to take out the patella tendon.
Thank you.
Hey, Harrison, Sal Capaccio, great to see you, buddy.
Yes, sir.
So you have a really versatile defensive line. We know that. You guys have guys who can play inside, guys can play outside. You have penetrators, run guys. Just take us into, knowing when to kind of do all those things differently. And I know there's X's and O's that go into it, and you have different formations and fronts. But we asked Leslie about, is there a time where maybe he can try to do too much and you just have to focus in on what you do best, basically, just from your perspective, knowing when to penetrate, when to, be a run guy, so you don't overdo it or do something wrong, basically. Tell us about what goes into all that.
Yeah, so like you said, it's a lot of X's and O's. So who are we playing this week? And we didn't game plan once against our offense this training camp. And, you know, you guys were at some of our practices. You've seen how much we run or how much we pass. We don't know how realistic that is to other teams that we might play. But as you start to look at the Jets and Gase's offense, you can see that, you know, they do run the ball. They have inside zone. They have hawk. They have belly kick. They have bounce. And even if we haven't seen that from our offense, you just have to start anticipating what plays you're going to get. You know, if we're up 3 scores, that changes the game as well. If we're down 3 scores, that changes the game. So it's more of you know, a game-by-game decision, if that makes sense. But like you said, you don't want to overcomplicate things. So when it all comes down with no OTAs and no preseason games, fundamentals are what's going to win in the first few weeks of the season. Who's going to have the least amount of penalties? Who's going to tackle well? Who's going to block well? And so for us, regardless of if we're getting off the rock, if we're stunning, if we're playing the pass, we just have to rely on our fundamentals. And ultimately, that's what's going to win us up the, you know, to start the season.
Thanks, buddy.
Yep.
Hey, Harrison, so great to see you, number one, and very happy for you to be where you are on your journey back.
Thank you. You should get that Eagles helmet off from behind the wall behind you.
Well, it's part of my history, brother. I'll explain it another time. So, Harrison, I know you've got much more to focus on as far as your own side of the ball, your own self. However, just paying attention as you do to a lot of things, Josh Allen's play, as we are, I guess, at this phase where the camp portion of camp is over and you're into regular season mode, and you've been able to kind of see him in the preparation for as much as you could up to this point. What are your observations of the Josh Allen you see now, obviously compared to the one you've been around?
Josh has had a phenomenal training camp. I mean, that's the headline. That's the bullet point. He's done a fantastic job. I've seen again, we haven't game planned them. I'm not sitting watching them when I'm watching film, but just to be out at practice, to see how he commands their huddle, to see the plays that he makes, the smart decisions he makes, the way that he can get himself out of trouble with his legs if he needs to. He was a phenomenal football player last year, very underrated player amongst the league, in my opinion, in terms of the media and things like that. He's a better player this year. And so to see the growth in him from year 2 to year 3 just makes me so optimistic about him being my quarterback. And, you know, it's great when you can trust that guy, you know, and we don't have to worry that he's going to make the right decision and trust himself. And at the end of the day, he's a playmaker himself. So he can trust himself, and we've got his back no matter what.
And just as a quick follow, as far as the excitement for this team, the reasons are many, but a big part of it is the expectation that the offense will be better. As a member of that defense, which has to hold up its part, are you excited about the prospect that this offense will take collectively, or led by Josh, a bigger step?
Yeah, I mean, that's the optimistic viewpoint we've got to have is they're going to be scoring a lot of points and scoring them fast and wearing out the defenses that they'll face. And all that means for us is if they're scoring a bunch of points, we got to go rush the passer. And I want to get some sacks this year. I know the rest of the guys want to get some sacks. And so I think that's the perfect culmination of how we can be a successful team and really make a stretch here is, you know, offense go out, strike first, strike early, get a good lead on us, and then let the dogs that we have on our defense. I mean, you're familiar with all the names that get after the quarterback here, and let us go eat.
Thank you so much.
No problem.
Horrible Harry, Mookie Hawkins, Waffle Sports 1080. How you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Good. Now, you were stolen in the 3rd round in the 2008 draft by Brandon Beane to be the heir apparent to Kyle Williams. Now, how confident are you going into this season?
Personally or in the team?
Personally.
You know, the last time I did a media thing, it was my first day in pads. And today is the last day of training camp. And I would say my level of confidence from then to now is you know, astronomically better. And that's because I've been in situations. I went against our starting offensive line, you know, Mitch Morse and Quentin Spain and Cody and these guys, you know, coming down on hard double teams and live periods. And the knees came out perfectly fine. Never had to miss a day due to swelling or pain or anything like that. So the confidence in the body is there. I'll still need to break off some rust. I've only played 1 month pretty much of football, and I was off for a whole year. So there's still going to be a learning curve, and I anticipate that from game 1 to game 16, 17, 18, 19, I'm going to be a better player as the season goes on. But definitely my confidence is up.
Now, we all know the game is won up front, and you was just talking about those dogs just a minute ago. So this is your 3rd year. How will this defensive line set the tone this year?
I'm a firm believer that we're the tip of the spear. And, you got to – the biggest ways to win this league are protect and affect the quarterback. And so on our job, we got to affect the quarterback in any way we can, whether it's his eyes, his hands, or his feet. And so you look at our team, and we'll find out what the final roster looks like. But that Brandon and Sean are going to put the best players they can. And so we're going to have a room of 8 to 10 to however many guys we have who all have that mindset. And the defensive line coach, Washington, has G2X. It means get to the spot. Doesn't matter who's in front of us, who's back there. Our mission is simple: get to the spot, get to the X. And that's the mindset that we're all getting engraved with, and we can't wait to look at a color other than the Buffalo Bills out on a playing field. So we're getting anxious.
Absolutely, man. Hey, I hope you give them 99 problems out there. Getting to the quarterback shouldn't be one of them, all right?
Yeah, I hear you. I like it. Thank you very much, sir.
What's up, Harrison? Matt Fairburn. Good to see you. You mentioned a little bit there, but what's it been like working with Coach Washington as you kind of get a little bit of a different philosophy, from him?
Yeah, he's been very, very a very great coach in our short time together. Unfortunately, it has been a short time, but been learning a lot. He's super encouraging. Loves that positive reinforcement coaching style, which I think is a very successful one in the building that we have here, but also just in the NFL altogether. And I love how he coaches everyone at the same standard. He doesn't see a starter and a bubble roster player. He wants everyone has the same opportunity, and it's his job to push them to as far as he can, given their opportunity. And he said that before in our meeting. So I respect him for that. I've heard of other places or other stories where the coach might just focus on the 4 starters and we're going to get these guys as good as possible. If you were to watch a meeting in our room, you wouldn't be able to tell who's a starter and who's not based on the way how he leads his meetings. But love his encouragement, love his system, how he sees the games, and he has experience as defensive coordinator. So we got defensive tackles understanding what coverage is behind us, and if we're in a 2-high safety, a 7-man box, if we're in a man coverage, to understand the whole bigger picture. How much better can I be as a player if I not only know what the D-line's doing, but I know how fast the linebackers are coming down, or who's a defender, if he's going to make the quarterback hold the ball longer or not. And so teaching that, that's a big step up in terms of our overall defense.
And what do you've talked a lot about your rehab and kind of the mental hurdles of taking your first hits and getting through this training camp healthy, but it's been a while since you've been on the field, but it's also going to be, even if you had been, on the field last year, having 14 padded practices before you play a real game. You're talking, you're ready to play 250 snaps, but what do you feel the physical toll will be feeling, an NFL game for the first time after such a short training camp?
Yeah, it'll be probably a step up. I haven't had a 4-hour practice, which is, we're going to go into a 4-hour game. But I will say, 14 fully padded practices, but you guys have been here on the days that we weren't fully padded. I mean, we're still getting it. We're still very physical. And the way that they stranded it, having like 3 whole hard days in a row, I promise you that 3rd day of full pads is going to be harder than a game. The wear and tear on your body going into the day like that after you lifted that week and ran. And then a game, they have a great tapering system with Fridays being lighter, Saturday walkthrough, Sunday game. We're going to feel a lot more fresh on a game day, I would anticipate. Some of those concerns are up. I mean, we know we only had however many practices you mentioned, and that's why it's been so important since April 20th that we've been on these Zoom meetings, learning the playbook, understanding all of our assignments. And like I mentioned earlier, what's going to win these first few weeks of the season is fundamentals, and we've been preaching that every day here. So we'll have to lean on that and, trust our coaches.
Awesome. Thanks, Harrison.